Had a happy new year thus far. I'm calling our meeting to order at 9:02 a.m. We'll have the invocation by Pastor Moscato from United with Christ Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father, we thank you for your grace upon this year, 2025. We thank you for the wisdom that is in this room. And we ask for your help, your guidance, your counsel, and Father, for your peace, that we might be better together than we were last year. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Ryan Scray.
Good morning, Commission. At one of the previous meetings, it came to light that in January 2024, the HR director committed what I believe is a sunshine violation. I had communicated this all with you guys, and I conducted a public records request. That public records request indicated that the HR director said in regard to a special payment made to the city manager for holiday pay that she received 4 responses confirming you guys allowing that. The public records request returned only 3 results. And Mayor, you had responded in an email and you said, according to our attorney, we have to make sure, this is in quotes, make sure this item comes back to the commission in January to finish the conversation started on this matter at our last meeting. If there was a sunshine law violation, that full and open discussion paired with an independent final action, all in the sunshine, is a proper remedy here. I would ask all 5 of you to consider, is the consent agenda the definition of full and open discussion paired with an independent final action? It is not. So I would ask that you pull this item from the consent agenda and discuss it full and open here in the public so you guys can reach whatever remedy you need to on that item. Additionally, in regard to sunshine violations, the fact that this arose and it originated with a department head concerns me if our department heads have adequate training to avoid potential sunshine violations. So I would also ask that you guys review what training they get and if they're all aware of what constitutes a sunshine violation, so that way they could avoid putting the commission in a position that none of you should want to be in. Additionally, I would also ask that each of you, during your reports, make mention to this situation and share your thoughts on it, because I'm sure when you responded to that email, you were not thinking you were creating a sunshine violation in your response. I would expect, based on discussions with each of you, that you would want to share with us your perspectives on that matter. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. George Hines. Ron Sharp with Ark of the Bay.
Good morning. First, I want to say thank you guys that were able to make it to our groundbreaking Friday. Greatly appreciate your attendance. And also, with all the support within the city systems, Amanda has always been there whenever I needed her, along with the rest of your staff. This morning, hopefully, I'm coming with good news to share with you, and I just ask you to help advocate and share it with your employees and also the rest of the citizens that live here in Lynn Haven. The Ark of the Bay is partnering for our 3rd year with the AARP Tax Aid Foundation. And we're going to be in our Sally Stanley Community Room on Wednesdays from 2 to 7. And all of our tax preparers are offering this service. We're offering it at no charge. They're all certified, IRS certified, so they're trained professionals doing free tax returns. And why are we doing it? Because we love where we live. We love where we work. We love the city of Lynn Haven. And we're just trying to make sure that we're making sure that people don't get taken advantage of. Let me give you some numbers last year that you'll be very proud of. We were able to provide over 184 tax returns last year, providing over $164,566 in refunds. The average refund was $1,285. And here's something what I'm really, really excited about working with AARP. The average savings that we're able to provide working with them was $46,000. The average return, simple returns, probably about $250. And when you equate the number of returns, 184, that's a lot of money. And again, it's putting the money back into the people that are working and just really doing the right thing. So what we're here today for is if you would help, maybe get it in your newsletter, let your employees know that, hey, you know what, swing by Wednesday from 2 to 7. We do it free. And also the citizens that live in Lynn Haven. So thank you. Appreciate what you do.
Thank you. Mr. Larry White. All right. Thank you all for that service that you're providing for our community. Mr. Rich Walker.
Good morning. Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. You're embarking on a new year. In 7 days, maybe 8 days, maybe never, we're going to get a new president. He's embarking on a new year, a new era. You have a lot to look forward to as commissioners. My view here over the last year, I can only see 1.5 commissioners that represent people. You're not districted for the reasons of districting. You're districted to give you a numerical situation on that panel. Districting allows you to represent a certain amount of people in a certain area. You're not there. You're given a number. That's how you sit in order here. Therefore, each commissioner cannot represent a certain amount of people in a certain area. You have to be ad hoc, ad general. You represent all of us. I have only seen 1.5 commissioners represent this city. I say it again, I only see 1.5. Each time, that 1.5 has been very heavily critical situations given to them from the rest of you. I hope this coming year you have to look at the charter, comprehensive plan, the budget, very critically to keep you and this city going for the next year. You've got a lot ahead of you. You can't kick the bucket down the road anymore. You've got to address them. You can't table things. You've got to address it. I wish you luck, but believe me, like I've said to the church, God above is watching us. We're watching you now. I'm going to make you accountable. You're going to have to look at it. Believe me, I'm going to be watching you. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Michelle Bashir.
Michelle Bashir's 811 Louisiana Avenue. I am going to speak about the planning board meeting from Tuesday. I know this item is not on the agenda, but I attended that meeting, and can I just say there was a crowd. This meeting, though, was quite different than similar ones I've attended in the past. The neighbors to the north were rightly upset, but they were respectful. They presented their opinions and factual data, it was actual data, and were very, very convincing. The bottom line is they do not want the rental townhouse development in their single-family residential neighborhood, and it should not be allowed, even if it is on property that is zoned for such development. The good news is they brought the homeowners association attorney, and he has already made a filing with the court. I hope, as this is sorted out, that these homeowners will prevail and the concerns for their investment, their quiet, peaceful lifestyle, and for the environment will outweigh another developer who doesn't care about the neighbors and the disruption it will inevitably cause. Because, as we all know, home ownership usually brings pride in a different lifestyle that is more invested in the neighborhood than rental property ever will. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there additional public commentary? All right, thank you for your comments. Following up with some of those comments, Mr. Scray mentioned pulling the item of ratification from the consent agenda as it relates to a possible sunshine violation. Our attorney, could you give us a little more clarification on the potential of that possibly being a sunshine violation, and if leaving this on the consent agenda would remedy whatever issues we might be having?
So, while I'm not sure there is a sunshine law violation here by the commission, there is certainly a perception of one that you have the ability to address by having a full and open conversation. You did discuss this issue on Friday. I'll leave it to you to determine whether or not each of you felt like you got to say your piece about this particular issue, not just its placement on the agenda. The consent agenda generally is not a place for the discussion of items. So if you feel like you didn't get to say your piece, pulling it to the regular agenda is procedurally appropriate to do. Because the item is a ratification of a decision you have already made, that itself makes it appropriate to go on the consent agenda. It's the fact that there's the perception of the sunshine law violation here that changes the analysis slightly. I'll leave it to you whether you want to have further discussion about your thoughts when you voted yes to approve that overtime payment.
All right, thank you. Also, someone said something about having some vision issues because they can only see 1.5 commissioners representing the citizens. I would certainly encourage you to get your optometrist appointment for 2025, as I believe all 5 of our commissioners, including myself, represent the citizens of Lynn Haven. So I don't think there's 1, 1.5, 2, or 3 that represent our citizens. I think all of us represent our citizens here in Lynn Haven. And thank you, Ms. Bashir, for giving us that insight in regards to the community response. Though we see it on paper and we see, some of the comments that are made whenever we read those reports, we don't always get the opportunity to actually see it, in person, or to really get an idea of the temperature in the room as it relates to those issues. So thank you for sharing that. In regards to my report, want to get some of the overlap from last year and a little bit from this year. So met with the city manager a few times before we had the end of the year to make sure that we could end well and begin a new great year. So had a few meetings with her to discuss some things that we had some concern about as a commission, and questions we've gotten from some of our citizens. And so she's been following up with that in regards to staff. Some of that was questions about our building here, our city hall, and the cost of that. And so her and I discussed that for probably about an hour or so to try to get some more information and insight as to how we can make sure that we answer the questions and provide the information that is needed. And talk with her about that most recently. So I know she has some plans to follow up with us individually as commissioners to talk with us about that as they're still pulling that information together. We're also planning, if needed, to have a workshop, public workshop, to discuss the cost for the building so that it can be out in the open, so that everyone will know, what the building will cost. So Commissioner Purna, I know you made some mention of things on Friday. And so immediately after that meeting, I met with the city manager and also spoke with CJ. And so I know they're already beginning to work on discovering those details of what you mentioned in regards to the decisions and things that were made. So that is something that's on our urgent list to try to make sure that we can gather that information to handle that. So after that, we also had a chance to be on a brief call with the city manager and Bob Micah, the county manager, in regards to the expansion of our sewer plant, to moving that out into the county area. And so just discussing with him about the cost of things for those studies. And so city manager discussed with him about giving us an estimate of what that will cost, as we're also putting that as one of our legislative items that we would like to receive funding for. Also had a meeting with a new nonprofit in the community that's hoping to develop a community housing program. It would be a transition house, but it would sort of be a one-stop shop transition house for those getting out of the state prison here, MCT state prison. And so they're just asked about some different thoughts and ideas on that community housing program. So thought it was a good idea. We certainly need to be of service to our entire community in Bay County as much as possible. Also talked with some new businesses, and think I forwarded that information to Ben Janke about some incentives that they were looking for in Lynn Haven. And so thank you, Ben, for following up with them to discuss some incentives that we could possibly have here. Although it is not a business in Lynn Haven, city manager and I were invited and attended the grand opening for Myers Electric. They're in Panama City. Though they're not a business in Lynn Haven, they service our area as well. And so it was nice to go by and see different leaders and business owners from different areas, and also to congratulate them. They've done a great job of renovating their building there on 18th Street. Also had a phone consultation with our legislative consultant in preparation for the delegation meeting, as well as our upcoming a session that will begin in March. And so gave me some different insights on things that we can be preparing for, and different ways that we can try to make sure that we're ready to have the best representation during that time. Also had a meeting with the city manager, our legislative consultant, and Representative Griffiths, and we were able to, prior to the delegation meeting, also give a little more explanation as to our requests for this year for the session. And so he gave us a very favorable response as to how he would like to support those initiatives, especially one being the moving of the wastewater treatment plant to the county and collaborating with them. So he was great on that idea. Hopefully he will be able to get us a matching fund for our road request. So we're hoping to do that as well. And then we even threw in a couple of extras to see if there might be some legislative funding for that, or at least some grants that him or our legislative consultant could point us in the direction to. And one was for a new pumper truck. And also, I think it was something for the football fields, I think is what or sports fields, new softball field. And so we talked with him about that as well. So working to make sure that we can, get as much monies as we can without being a burden on our taxpayers to provide for the things that we need here in the city of Lynn Haven. And so again, great discussion with him. One of the things that he did mention, last year, some of you know that he was one of the advocates for the Airbnb legislation, or the vacation rental legislation. He was the one that represented that from the House of Representatives side. And so I did have a good discussion with him about that. They did say it was too late for us to have a local ordinance. However, or a local ordinance that would be going to the State House. However, he did say that we could look at the possibility of creating just our own ordinance here in the city, and just make sure that we follow the guidelines and that it can't be more strenuous than the guidelines that other vacation rental ordinances have done within other cities. So talking with him, he was able to give me a little more explanation as to that law that says you can't implement something prior to 2011. His interpretation of it was that it can't be more strenuous than what was prior to, if you didn't have anything on the books prior to 2011. So the way he explained it was that if there was a city, for example, Panama City Beach, who already had something on the books, that they could maybe make a little more constraint in their adaptation of their ordinance. But if we're a city that's implementing a new ordinance, that it couldn't be more strenuous on those vacation rentals. And I just shared with him, we just would like a registration so that we can follow up with the owners and talk with them. So we felt very empowered and exciting, city manager and I did, when we left that meeting. And so I do plan on following up with her as well as staff, and she's going to coordinate that for us in the next few weeks or so, as well as with our city attorney, to look at a possible ordinance that we could bring back to the commission in regards to vacation rental. So we didn't get it the first year or the second year or the third year, but hopefully we have a remedy for our citizens this year that we can actually do. So maybe home rule does rule this time. And so we'll see how that goes. Thank you to all the commissioners that were able to attend the delegation meeting. I know that was a little awkward time. Usually it was close to Christmas. Usually it's a little earlier in December, I think. But thank you to all that were there to able to represent. And I think it always looks great for our city to be there representing on behalf of our citizens. And so we're able to, again, advocate for you publicly the things that we want. And again, seeming to get support from our state representative and our state senator. Also followed up with our HR director and assistant city manager, Ms. Hodges, in regards to the city manager's annual evaluation. So we received our evaluation questionnaires prior to Christmas. And I think one or two of us are still working to complete those. And so we'll hope to make a report of that before February, hopefully. Also had a chance with other commissioners to go to the grand opening for the new Arc of the Bay housing facility. Really looking forward to where they're going to continue to serve our community in that way. And on Friday, had a great time here in our commission chambers with our former mayor, Walter Kelly, as we had the unveiling of the naming for the commission chamber here to the Walter T. Kelly Commission Chamber. So all of us as commissioners were able to be at that. And I think that was an exciting time to have older commissioners, old and retired employees, just a great festive time here. And he was so excited, right? He was so excited. It was great we were able to do something for him while he could still enjoy it. And, you know, his children and his grandchildren were here to see the legacy that he left. If I'm not mistaken, he's been the longest commissioner, mayor in position to serve the city of Lynn Haven. So thank him for his selfless service, because they definitely weren't getting paid back then. We're not getting paid a lot now. It's enough to cover my lunch expenses. So, but, you know, thank him for his selfless service and the time he gave, that we're truly able to continue to grow and build upon his shoulders. Although we as a commission get a lot of credit for the great things that are happening in Lynn Haven now, it's because there were people before us that did a great job and put us on the right path, that we can enjoy many of the successes that we have now, especially being one of the top 10 cities in the state of Florida and one of the top 10 safest cities in the state of Florida. So thank you to those leaders that preceded us in our departments and our commission to set the pathway for us. So trying to give you a detailed report there, Ms. Bashir. There's a lot of things I didn't cover, like all the emails and stuff I responded to, but hopefully you see that I've been working, you know, during my Christmas break. All right. That is my report.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you had a great holiday season. I surely did. Just wanted to remind those that didn't know, I'll have a coffee meetup on the 25th at SOLA at 8 a.m. If you want to come meet up with me and talk about whatever you want to talk about, I'd love to talk to you. As the mayor said, the chamber dedication to former Mayor Kelly was fantastic. It was great to see not only current people here supporting him, but those in the past that had served with him, and heard some great stories from former commissioners that served along with them. and it was really a fantastic time. I talked to multiple people over the past few weeks for ideas for the upcoming year. It's a good time to take a step back and really just think about things that we can work on in the upcoming year. So just for an example, I got an idea from someone to potentially add non-binding questions to the ballot. If you want to know more about that, I'd love to talk about it. It's just something, an idea that might work. So if anybody has any new ideas for the upcoming year that maybe we haven't talked about or you want to talk to us or me about, please reach out to me. I'm very receptive to new ideas or modifications of ideas we've already had. And I've been trying to do a good job of researching different events that are going around the city, not just here at the city, but as far as the government entity, but as well as local businesses and things like that to try to spread the word. So if you have any businesses or any events that you have going on, let me know and I'll help spread the news. It doesn't have to be anything crazy or big. If you just want me to help you get the word out about something that's happening, just let me know. I'll help spread it. Another thing that I've spent a lot of time doing is trying to research what other cities and municipalities have done in terms of like accessory structures and RVs, because that's things that we've been talking about recently. And it really is interesting to see how there isn't really a standard across the board. But we're hopefully we'll do our best in figuring out what's best for our city. And I just wanted to thank Ms. Bashirs for the update on the Planning Commission. It's fantastic. I love, like the mayor said, being able to hear it in person helps me a lot. So now I know I can come to you and ask you questions if I have them. But and then finally, I want to address what Ryan Scray talked about. So this happened about a year ago, and most of us know. When you come new into something, it's like drinking from a water hose. So, I just assumed that we were just answering an email that was standard operating procedures, and I was new, and if that wasn't the right thing, we're going to try to ratify it today. It was brought to light, so I can assure you that there was nothing malicious going on or anything like that. It was just simply what we thought, or at least what I can't speak for other people, but for me, I just thought it was standard operating procedures, and we were following them. If that's not the case, then it's a learning experience for everyone involved, me, everybody else, and we'll talk about it today. As far as pulling it from the agenda, and it was of my opinion that we have public commentary, so you could bring it up there. We have our commissioners' reports to talk about it, and we talked about it on Friday. So we did cover our bases there, but if it's of the commission wants to pull the item due to what the attorney said, I'm not going to say no to that either. I just want to be in the spirit of transparency. I'm happy to talk about it. Like I said, there's nothing to hide. So if anyone wants to talk about it, we can talk about it. It's fine. Whatever everyone wants to do. I just wanted to assure everyone that there was no malicious intent, and we're just trying to, in the spirit of transparency, bring it up and talk about it. And so, like I said, again, if you have any questions about it, talk to me. I really have only had maybe 2 or 3 people talk to me about it, but if there's more people that want to talk to me about it, sure, I'll talk to you about it. I got nothing to hide. I just thought it was standard operating procedures. That's it. But anyways, it's up to everybody, but that's what I had to say about that. And that's my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Perno.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate your both reports to hear, and to go right off of what you just said, Commissioner Peebles. I talked to Ryan Scray on the phone, and when we responded to his emails, I know I did not respond to the email, but people thought I did or whatever. But I think it's better that we just pull it from the agenda, the consent agenda, and talk about it, for the sake. So I'll make a motion right now that we pull that from the consent agenda and talk about it as a separate item.
All right. There is a motion to pull number 11 from the consent agenda to make it old business as part of our regular business meeting. Is there a second for that?
It doesn't require a second or a vote to pull from the consent agenda. Any of us can single-handedly remove it from the consent.
We can do that, but we haven't reached the consent agenda to do that. So we know the rules, but he's making a motion, and so we haven't made it to the consent agenda for me to ask for that to be done.
Okay, I second it.
All right, there's a motion and second. Any comments from the public? No comments from the public. City Manager, if you call the vote.
Commissioner Parno,
Yes?
Commissioner Ward,
Yes?
Commissioner Vinegar,
Yes.
Commissioner Peebles,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes, motion passed.
Okay, and continuing on, I'm sorry to put the cart before the horse. I didn't understand that we,
Yeah, I was going to ask about it when
I
we
know,
got to the
and
consent
I
agenda.
apologize for that, but I just figured that's the best thing to do. Hearing his sentiments, I'm sitting here, I sit closest to the lawyer, so, I just figure that's the best thing to do today, for that item. And just to go on, and I just want to get the credit out there where it needs to be on this, our efforts to move our water treatment plant from where it is to do the co-op with the county. I talked to city manager about it before I was in her office after our first meeting, and said, hey, we need to do this. But everything stemmed from a text message I got from Jessica Graham with the St. Andrews Bay, St. Joe Bay Estuary Program. And I don't want any credit for spearheading this, but those are the folks that know our environment really well. And I know we're going to get endorsement from them, but I just want to give complete credit and validity to the estuary program, considering that it's coming to be. At this time, it's about 3 years in, and these things don't just come out and become what they are overnight. And I've been involved with it, and I'm happy to say I've been involved with it since the very beginning, since the forming of the program, and before they even selected Jessica as the commissioner of the program to bring her to what she's been working on, and Ryan Rossi, the scientist. I mean, I got to give these people a lot of credit for what they've done to save our bays and bring light to our watershed and what we need to do to protect it. So with that being said, I know that I got an email with their newsletter, and I'm a little late to the game IT-wise. I would have asked that, I'm going to ask that I add their newsletter to my report and get with our IT people so I can do that, and so it'll be part of the minutes. So everyone can publicly view their newsletter that they're putting out, and then you could join the estuary program that way and get updated on all their information. That being said, I know I brought up some questions on Friday, and I know we're going to be getting answers to them. I've never started a new year with more peculiar thoughts and questions, to what we're going forward to do. And I know that we're going to, as a commission, do the best things for the city of Lynn Haven. With that being said, I'd like to thank all of our first responders and all of our city employees. And I'd like to genuinely throw my heart out there for all the people in the West Coast that are experiencing what they're experiencing right now. I know there's a lot of high-profile people, and you're seeing it on the news and whatnot, but if you watch that football game last night, the Los Angeles Rams, I think they were playing a little above their heads to throw it back for the people in their town to be displaced and play that game, and how they showed things. It just brought about a different feeling, kind of the feeling we had around here when we were going through Hurricane Michael. So my heart's going out to those people, and that's all I want to say, and that's my report. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Parno. Commissioner Ward.
Yes, so I know the mayor already talked about this, the legislative delegate meeting. I was able to attend that. I think it's pretty beneficial that when we go and we show our state reps that this is how much we care about our community. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, since we've been doing this, I don't think I've ever seen any other city do that. So I think it sends a strong message and a presence to the state reps. So thank you for you doing that. I did attend the Arc of the Bay. That was an awesome event. One of the things I learned was the land that they developed that on was actually donated by the church. I think it's Harvest Worship Church that's in front of it. And it wasn't?
No, Lynn Haven Methodist Church.
I'm sorry, Lynn Haven Methodist Church, my apologies. But I thought that was pretty awesome that they donated that land to them. And there's a lot of other people that donated money and volunteered to make sure that happened. And we were able to walk in the facility, and it's a really nice facility. And, you know, it's Arc of the Bay is kind of has a special place in my heart because they actually helped one of my daughters when she graduated from school to find a job. And they have some awesome programs to help people. So Mr. Sharp does an awesome job with that organization. That thing has grown quite a bit. And then I was able to attend the ceremony of Mayor Kelly naming the city chambers. I was actually able to sit down with him. I think it was about a week prior to that. And gosh, we talked for probably about 2.5, 3 hours. And it was great to pick his brain, learn some history of Lynn Haven. You know, we have a couple things in common. One, he joined the best United States military branch, the Air Force. And he's very passionate about home rule, and so am I. You know, he gave me some very good advice and mentorship. One of the things he told me was keep fighting the tough issues. It can be very uncomfortable, but you need to do the right thing. So that meant a lot to me. 25 January, after you go to a Commissioner Peebles coffee event, you can come to Slim Chickens at 11:30 if you'd like to sit down and talk with me. And if you can't make that, obviously you can always call me at 850-391-1217. Be more than happy to sit down and talk with you on the phone, email me or whatever. I did get a phone call about the development order that Ms. Bashir brought up. I would like to talk to the residents, but here's the thing that we have to remember is, I think, and of course this is where we'll rely on the city attorney, I think we're very limited on what we can do, because if it matches the land use code, I don't know, and as long as they're abiding by all local, state and federal regulations, I don't know if there's really a whole lot we can do legally, but we will definitely see everything that we can do. So, and with that, that's all I have. Oh, I know it always, Commissioner Peebles always beats me to this, and I probably don't say enough, but I appreciate everything that the employees do, the first responders and dispatchers. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Vandergrift. I think we left enough for you.
Not much. I also attended the delegate meeting with the senators and the House of Representatives. Mr. Warwick is correct. It's a shame that not all municipalities are represented at this meeting to, you know, show the support for these individuals. But Lynn Haven is always there. And I think it shows that we really care about what we're asking for from these individuals. The Arc of the Bay, we're very fortunate to have that program in Lynn Haven. You know, they teach the kids, adults with disabilities or challenges, such skills as culinary arts and employment skills. And now they have the residential building, which is what we attended the grand opening. And it was actually named after Mr. Finch, and for his continued support of that program. Mr. Kelly is a unique individual. He, like Mr. Warwick said, was in the military. I don't know if that's the best branch, but it's a pretty good branch for almost 25 years. And he also served as Callaway's chief of police. I didn't know that. And he was on the commission prior to deciding to run for mayor. So he was elected for mayor in 1998 and served till 2015. So he's a very good example of sharing your gifts and your talents with the city that you love. I am going to address the 1.5 commissioners representing our city. I adamantly disagree with the statement. When I make decisions for the city, I do not have a hidden agenda. I do not make a decision based on dislike or a grudge that I have against someone. And I don't try to be narrow-minded. I try to make a decision based on what I think the 20,000 people would benefit from. You know, the Bible says that you're judged on your good works. I do not do this job because of the pay. I do it because I am fulfilling one of those requirements, good works for this city. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Before moving on to the city manager's report, one thing I did forget to mention is that there are several Lynn Haven citizens that are part of the Arc of the Bay program that have made a special request of our sanitation department if we could bring by our new garbage trucks and trash trucks like on a Wednesday so they could see them. And so that has been a special request from Lynn Haven citizens that are part of the Arc of the Bay program. And they have asked me, even as of yesterday, if I have made mention of this to you about that. So if you all would follow up on that. And Wednesday are the days that they attend the program, so that's why they're asking if it could possibly be on a Wednesday. But they do ask about that, and I'm sure they would love to see the fire trucks come by as well maybe on a Wednesday, because they ask me, are we getting new fire trucks? You know, so they're keeping up with our truck stuff. So Chris, you may have a consultant, because they come to me and they bring prices and they ask me, is this too much, or do you think this is a good price? So, you know, if you need some consulting on, you know, getting good prices for buying new equipment, you and Bobby, I have some citizens that would be, you know, willing to help you with that as well. All right. Thank you, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for attending Mayor Kelly's dedication. It was really nice. Staff did a really great job. We pulled together and really, really put on something special for him, because that's what he deserves. And just a great man within our city. Some of the things, of course, you've already heard that I am and was a part of. But a couple of things we are working on after we presented our list of things to the delegation. There comes the paperwork and the form and getting all of that in so that we can request those things. And it is a lot of work, and we've been working on that. Several of us have been working on the Senate and House forms for the legislative appropriation, and along with our lobbyists who will look at those and make sure we have the right information. Then it comes back to me to look at again, staff to look at, and attestation. But we are submitting paving projects for $1 million and matching that $1 million. We're asking for the funding for the feasibility rate study on the wastewater treatment plant. That is $1 million. And then we're asking for the pumper truck, which is $980. And there's surely some ways that may happen. We're surely hoping that. And so all of those requests have to be in by a certain date, and we're trying to start early just in case we need additional information, that we can get those in with some solid information. We'll be meeting with the county next week on the feasibility study and talking about, what avenues we go down. And I know that the county had, broached this many years ago with the former city manager a while back. And now it's kind of come back around to fruition. And this may be the best time to really look at, where our wastewater plant will be in the future. And we hope good things will happen there for the wastewater treatment plant. So just to give you some numbers, our first responder calls have increased by 7% since 2023, our Station 1 by 3.5%, and Station 2 by 14.8%. So it's really busy. Chief Johnson is doing a remarkable job, as is the police department, which we will go down and in February for the reaccreditation before the commission, which is always pretty exciting to be recognized as one of the best police departments in the state of Florida, with all of the really excellent and superior things that they do. You'll probably see after this cold spell leaves us, don't know when, but we anticipate there'll probably be some trees that will probably have frozen and will be dead. We'll probably have to replace those. So you see that happening within our parks. That's what's happening there. We did have a citizen talk about the sign off of Bailey Bridge that had some problems with the lighting. And we do have a 5-year warranty on that, and the replacement parts have been submitted, and we'll get that taken care of us as well. A few people had asked why the gym was closed during the Christmas, New Year break. So the gym is closed during the times that the city is closed because there's no one there, of course, to manage it. But that's also a good time that we go in, and this has to be done just to keep all of the floors refinished and then assured that we're taking care of what God has blessed us with. So we had to refinish the floors. It was a 6-day process, and we do this once a year so that the floors can look clean and glossy. And pretty proud to say as well that we will be hosting the gym for Special Olympics. They'll use the gym every Sunday for their basketball team. And the wonderful thing about that is staff volunteered to give up one of their, well, we will pay them, but they even said, we don't mind coming out here to be a part and to work Sundays for this Special Olympics. So we're pretty excited about that. We have 2 weeks left in spring ball registration, and then we're finishing to the end. It's a lot of registration going on within the city. As you know, spring ball and fall ball continues to rise and grow. Table talk is on this Thursday, 23rd at 5:30. Commission, just a reminder that we will be bringing back to you at the second commission some options and discussing the stormwater. We wanted to do that soon this year, so we wouldn't be at the last minute. You have some time to really look at all of the recommendations that have come along. And Finance Committee meeting is January 30th. And so those are just a couple of items that we've been working on here in the city.
Thank you. Our warrant list.
Morning. Do you have any questions about the warrant list?
Only one I didn't get asked on Friday. What do we buy from Amazon?
Oh, that's a variety of things. I know that it can be office supplies, it can be computer equipment. I know that the police department buys swag to give out to children. There's a lot of different things. I can pull the detail to that if you'd like, Commissioner.
I just didn't know if that was a standard budgeted thing or what. Is it just, so it's just miscellaneous throughout the departments?
Correct. And it's just an ease of purchasing because they do delivery and it comes quickly. So I don't have that in front of me right now, but I can certainly get you the detail. But I will tell you it's a variety of departments.
What I thought.
All right. Any other questions?
Thank you.
City Attorney, any updates for us?
Just one quick response to the comments regarding the quasi-judicial hearing standard for development orders. You are not locked in to approval. You have the ability to approve with conditions, or deny. The applicant bears the burden of proof to show that he has met all of the conditions that the city has set for the application requirements. But the commission is not locked in to approval, particularly if the record demonstrates that there is a public purpose in maintaining the status quo and therefore denying the application. Now, that public purpose can't be implied, so it's essentially a approve with conditions, or deny with a reason. But if you have that reason and you have heard it on the record before you, you do have the ability to do that. I just wanted to say that for the record, leading up to that hearing at next meeting.
All right. Thank you for that clarification. Moving on to our consent agenda, approval of minutes 12/10/23, approval to declare assets 493899 and 113495 as surplus and authorize staff to auction off. And approval of Florida Grant Amendment Number 3 for the Florida and Ohio Improvements Project, extending the grant time duration and updating the program description. Is there a motion for this?
A motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Peebles, second by Commissioner Perno. City Manager, call the vote.
Commissioner Peebles?
Yes.
Commissioner Perno?
Yes.
Commissioner Vandegrift?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes, motion passed. Agenda item number 11, discussion and possible approval to ratify the decision for the overtime payment to the city manager for working at the MLK event in 2024. All right, so we said we wanted to discuss this, so is there, I guess we're open for discussion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, there's a motion to approve, and then there is a second motion by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Peebles. Is there discussion from the public? Yes, ma'am.
Happy New Year to you all,
Happy New Year.
and thanks for all you did over the holidays to make things go well. Over the years, I've had both salaried and hourly positions myself. And as an hourly worker, I liked that I could pick up some extra time if I wanted it to. As a salaried person, I felt like intelligent time management and maybe taking comp time, being at the place where I need to be, when I need to be there. In a salaried position, this is what I do. But then I take time off elsewhere. If I have to be there on a Sunday morning or Friday night or whatever, I'm there, but I might be taking time off elsewhere. And
Mayor, I don't mean to interrupt. Arlene, are you trying to talk about item 11?
yes, I thought
Yeah.
that's where we were.
We're on item 12, sorry.
We're still on 11.
Are we 11 or 12?
Yeah, we're on item number
Last time.
11.
I thought we were.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
He
yes.
opened it up
Yeah,
for
we're on item
public
number.
discussion.
My fault, sorry.
Through all this. See. Anyway, I just feel like intelligent time management would be a thing. And if we decide to give her overtime for something that we're retrofitting, basically, from Martin Luther King holiday in 2024. And when she accepted her job, it was as a salaried position. I don't understand, I would like to know, however, how much an hourly wage, if you decide to give it to her, how much is her hourly wage? And then what is that going to be time and a half?
So what?
How do you reckon that?
Right, and you're correct. We're actually looking at 2024, so we're not making a decision on this upcoming Martin Luther King Jr. holiday.
But
So,
it sounds like you would be. You'd be setting a
no,
precedent.
we're not. It just says specifically 2024. So this this decision today has nothing to do with the holiday that's on Monday. That will be further discussed in her contract conversations upcoming in the future meetings. So yeah, so this is just for the decision that we made. A citizen had a concern that we did not do everything by the book, or that we possibly could have violated sunshine in the way that we approved this. So that's why City Attorney made her comments earlier about we could leave it on the consent agenda, or if we wanted to appease the citizens.
Are other salaried employees in the city going to be
That's your
getting
time.
overtime?
Thank you. All right.
Mayor, if I could, I made a mistake. I thought we were on 12, so is there any way I can rescind my motion?
Sure.
I'd like to rescind my motion.
I was wondering what you're doing.
I don't know. I thought we were on 12. That's my mistake. Sorry.
All right, so you need to make a motion to rescind your motion, then there has to be a second to rescind that.
Okay.
You have to remove your second.
All right, and then,
So do I need to remove the second first before? Okay, I'll remove the second.
all right, so there's no motion. Mr. Hines, I'm sorry, you have to take a seat again. I'm sorry. There's nothing for us to discuss at this moment. So again, we pulled this off the consent agenda for the commission to discuss.
Yep.
So let's discuss.
So first, I think the first thing we need to look at is what does the city manager's contract state? And this is exactly what it says in their contract. It says, it is recognized that employee as part of her employment will be required to devote time to business of the employer outside the expected normal 40-hour work week, municipal holidays accepted, and to that end, employee would be allowed to take compensatory time off as she shall deem appropriate during said normal office hours, so long as such time off does not affect the performance of the employee in performing her duties. If you read this, the way I read this, the intent of it is not to pay the city manager overtime. And if it was, it should be stated in it. I've reached out to multiple commissioners and mayors and city managers to kind of get their feedback, like, what do you guys do in your municipalities? I'm gonna be honest with you. Normally the response I get is they either chuckle or they're like, really, are you messing with me? They don't get overtime. I went online, researched other city managers' employment contracts, and they're worded pretty similar to what ours is worded. They all seem to be worded pretty similar. There was a few I found that specifically stated they don't get overtime. I just think the whole intention of it is not to have overtime. And I'm not saying the city manager doesn't work long hours. She does, but that's why city managers are typically well compensated. But this is the part I think that bugs me the most. We talked about it already. Back in January 2024, we received an email from the city asking approval from commissioners to pay city manager overtime for work in the MLK event. I feel that this put the commissioners in a bad position. For the ones that did respond, I can't speak for them. I know Commissioner Peebles and I know you guys talked about it a little bit already, but I don't think none of them looked at it and said, even though this is against a sunshine law violation or something like that, I'm going to respond. I don't think any of them realize that. Fortunately, I never responded to it since I accidentally skipped over it. However, the city did feel that they received enough responses to grant the city manager overtime pay. When this came to light, instead of the city coming and apologizing to the commissioners for putting us in a bad position and publicly acknowledging it, was decided to add it to the consent agenda at the pre-commission meeting. And I believe this is probably there just to, hopefully, it wouldn't have any discussion, it would press on. To me, the right thing for the city to have done was to add it to the agenda, make sure there was accountability and take the proper remedial actions to ensure it doesn't happen again. I don't feel it's that complicated. I think we're making this harder on ourselves than it needs to be. I think a lot of this has to do with transparency. When we all ran for office, and this isn't a dig on you, Commissioner Vandegrift. I know you didn't run for office, you were appointed, it's not your fault. But when we ran for office, we all vowed to be transparent. And that's where I think, Commissioner Pernell, you were going with us when you were talking earlier. Now, saying all this, that doesn't mean I don't take any responsibility for this. When the email came out, I will let you know, and I know I talked about this before. During that time, I had a lot of personal medical problems going with the tumor that I have in my hip. And I believe this is probably why I skipped over it. However, it's no excuse, and I should have paid more attention. I should have, and we all should have, prevented this from getting to this point. And I don't know if anybody else will, but I would like to formally apologize to the residents of Lynn Haven for not being more meticulous to detail and just trusting everything the city does and thinking that they're doing it right. Everyone's going to make mistakes. I get that. But I do play a part in that also.
So what mistake, because you're asking city employees to apologize, you're saying they made a mistake.
I didn't say employee, or whoever.
I mean, you're saying the city, so.
The city put us in a bad position when that email went out.
Right, so who is the city?
Well, who sent the email?
That's an employee.
Okay, a city employee.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. So we're asking employees, whether it's one, several, to apologize, saying they did something wrong. No. He's saying that the city should not have put us in this position.
Yes.
And should have been forthcoming and apologizing for putting us in this position as commissioners. That's what he said.
And I think it's important to acknowledge here there's a difference in interpretation. From my perspective, the contract language that says municipal holidays accepted is critical here, because her expectation of when she works excludes municipal holidays, and that is the specific issue you have before you. She is not, by her contract, she is not expected to work on holidays. And here we have an instance where she did in fact work at the direction of the commission.
Right, and it says to that end, employee will be allowed to take compensatory time off.
So I think that phrase, again, we disagree on the interpretation. I think that phrase is meant to modify she's, as a salaried employee, should be working as many hours as it takes on non-holiday days to get the city work done.
Okay,
and so when she works overtime, she takes comp time as a result to balance that out.
So can we agree on this? If she does work on holidays, does she automatically get overtime?
No, she does not. Hence the reason for the question, I think, by city staff.
Correct.
And I think.
So again, that should be all done in the open. It shouldn't have been done the way it was.
You're right. And I'm just going to recap from my end. at the time of the event, I was attending the event, and I was asked by Ms. Hodges. She said, well, "I'd like to do something for the city manager, Ms. Gaynor, because she planned that event. She worked that event from beginning to end, and she only had a couple of people with her to that day who were with the city." And I mean, that event was absolutely wonderful, and I agreed at that time, so I felt like I didn't need to respond to the email, because I said, whatever y'all are going to do, just, go ahead and do something for whatever. And I didn't think it was a violation of sunshine law. I probably was the first one contacted, and it was face-to-face versus an email, so I didn't respond to the email. But since then, and I know you're bringing up the valid points, and I especially brought up the point, I don't, as my previous life and being a salaried employee, I don't agree that you should get overtime if you're on salary, plain and simple. But that's just the ballpark I've played in my whole life. We brought this up, and city manager stated she does not. This has already happened, and she already got paid. She has said, "I don't want overtime." She said it to me. She said it in our pre-meeting. She said, don't do anything like this again. So I think that covers up what this is, and the good thing is that we're talking about it now. But the going back and forth y'all just had, I think the thing that separates the fact that should she get overtime or not is that she is a contracted employee. She's a contracted salaried employee. So as a contracted salaried employee, she has to go by her contract. And you're talking about you're agreeing and disagreeing over the wording in her contract, basically. So I mean, we can haggle back and forth all day about that. But she got paid. This event came from her. She brought it. It was an event that was going on, but she brought it to Sheffield Park and brought in everything around it. It was quite an event if you attended. I saw Commissioner Peebles was there, and it was the first time she did it, first time it was done. And it was done so well, I think that the small group or the people that were there with her said, we got to do something for her. So I think, and I was in that spirit too, but then didn't know what it would cause to this degree. And as long as we have an understanding going forward, and since it's a retro thing, I wanted it all to be out there. I answered Ryan Scray's email and spoke with him, and I just wanted to recap my perspective. You're recapping your perspective. I'm sure the other commissioners will say how they felt about what happened that day, so we can get it out there, because violation of sunshine or what, this thing already happened, and I'm just hoping that, and I agree. I want to apologize to the other department heads and people that, maybe in a situation where they've worked and didn't get paid, because that's not right either. So and they get caught in those situations all the time. But then they get compensatory pay for other stuff they do it sometimes. But I think they all got it in their heads where they've done something and they didn't get overtime for it because they're on a salary. So it's one of these things where it happened. And it's our cross to bear. But I think we need to bring it to light like this, and I'm just giving you my perspective on it. I know y'all could go back and forth as far as that, because I think we're kind of hung up on the municipal holiday thing and pay, whether she should have gave up time or got paid.
Right.
And that's, and
I think it was all done with good intentions.
yeah, I think it was.
But if there's any doubt as far as whether this needs to be done in the open, just do it in the open.
Yep.
And otherwise, we wouldn't have to have this conversation.
We learned a lesson about that, and also when we get to talking about things like her car allowance and stuff, that
Right.
should have been something we voted on too. But
That's
we did
exactly what I'm getting
got
at.
done in the budget.
Right.
All right, so we're discussing to approve something that we've already approved. So is there a motion to ratify, to approve the ratification for the decision of overtime payment to the city manager working at the MLK event in 2024?
If I can just say one more thing I think the key here is that it was a learning moment. We figured out, now we have a way forward. As the city manager said, she's not expecting overtime pay anymore. We know that the talks of the contract is coming up soon. We can take all of this into consideration when we talk about potentially modifying the contract when we get to that point. I think the key here is there's a learning experience for everybody. We've learned. Now we have a way forward. And if we don't have a way forward, let's figure out the way forward. But the key is, like what Commissioner Perno said, it's a learning experience. We learned. And I apologize for confusion that it caused. That's something I apologize for, and now I know better. And, if I feel like, maybe it should be something that we should vote on, if it's an email or something, then I'll just suggest that in the future.
Is there a motion for this?
I'd like to make a comment. One more comment. I looked at this as a bonus, not so much as overtime pay. It's not that she simply worked this. She organized it. She was responsible for getting the individuals there, cleaning up. And I agree with the attorney. When she's off, she's off. But she likes to show everybody else that if I'm going to ask you to do something, I can do it too. So when it was originally sent to me, I was not thinking it was overtime pay. I was thinking it was an attaboy bonus. My mistake. I apologize if in the eyes of the citizens that we violated the sunshine. We didn't do it intentionally. We thought we were doing it out of the goodness of our hearts. But I don't think you ever have to worry about her accepting a bonus again. Thank you.
Ms. Hodges, if you could come, please. I remember last year you had an explanation regarding your request. I know you may not remember it verbatim, but I remember you had an explanation as to why we should consider doing that for the city manager because of the work. So
there is a policy, personnel policy, that allows the city manager to compensate exempt salaried employees for extraordinary service or under disaster situations. Because of that policy, I did ask if that could be considered for the city manager. I actually did talk to the city attorney, not Ms. Myers, but Mr. Obos, and he said I could do an individual email, get responses. What I failed to do was to ask what the next step was after that. Because after receiving 3 confirms and a verbal, I felt like there was enough authority for the extraordinary pay.
all right, thank you. All right, any more discussion? Is there a motion for this?
I make a motion to approve approve what we've already approved.
Is there a second for this?
I'll second it.
All right, motion to approve what we've already approved, second by Commissioner Peebles. Mr. Hines, if you would come back for your discussion, please.
Thanks, sir. Commissioners, Happy New Year. I was out of the country when the New Year trip flipped over. This process can be avoided by simply making a policy for comp time versus overtime. So the manager works, when she don't work, she get comp time for the 8 hours, 12 hours, whatever it is, when it's permissible with her job. Sometimes she have to be on her job 24 hours a day. So therefore, someone decided to do something for her by giving her overtime. That was their personal problem. And some of you that missed the item or overlooked the item, that was your fault, not hers. She got paid for it. All you got to do is ratify that you paid her. That's all this conversation is all about. And the 1.5 commissioner that whoever you are, you know who you are, you know what everybody's talking about. Someone in this country, in this county, not even in this county, some people come to this county every month to talk at the meetings, trying to separate you. Some of y'all aren't allowing them to do that. You're the commissioner of the 20,000 people living in Lynn Haven, not Port St. Joe, not Southport, not all the other districts. So you need to think about us, not 12 people, not 30 people, not 100, not 200 people, but 20,000 people who you represent. And I wish that y'all would get yourself together and just vote yea or nay on all the subjects and not trying to pass things on over and over. You got a lawyer that can tell you whether you're doing something right or wrong, take a judgment and go with it. You get sued, you get sued. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there additional public commentary? All right, City Manager, if you'll call the vote.
Commissioner Vandegrift.
Yes.
Commissioner Peebles.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
No.
Commissioner Parnell.
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes, motion passed. Discussion and possible approval of Resolution 2025-01448 to support the FDOT Transportation Alternative Grant Application. City Manager, if you'll read this by title only, please.
12, correct? This is Resolution 2025-01448, a resolution of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, to support construction of a sidewalk on Carolina Avenue and West 14th Street with transportation alternatives set aside, program funding, and providing for effective date.
Any questions for Mrs. Yankee? All right, no questions. Is there a motion for this?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Peebles. Is there comments from the public? No comments. City Manager, if you call the vote.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner Peebles.
Yes.
Commissioner Vandegrift.
Yes.
Commissioner Perna.
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes, motion passed. First reading of ordinance 1173, amending chapter 50 in regards to the firefighters retirement system and the code of ordinances for the city of Lynn Haven. So there is no vote on this, but we will have the reading of the ordinance by title only.
Ordinance number 1173, ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven, amending Chapter 50, Personnel, Article 4, Firefighters Retirement System, the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lynn Haven, amending Section 50 through 149 Supplemental Benefits, Component for Special Benefits, Chapter 175 Share Accounts, providing for inclusion in the code, providing for severability of provisions, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing effective date.
Are there any questions for the city attorney? All right, first reading of ordinance 1174, amending Chapter 50, Personnel, Article 3, Police Officers Retirement System. City Manager, if you read by title only, please.
Ordinance 1174, an ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven amending Chapter 50, Personnel, Article 3, Police Officers Retirement System of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lynn Haven, amending Section 50 through 104 Supplemental Benefits Component for Special Benefits, Chapter 185 Share Accounts, providing for inclusion in the code, providing for severability of provisions, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
Any questions for the city attorney? All right, first reading of ordinance 1175, small scale future land use map amendment for parcel number 08710-030-000 traditional neighborhood development to commercial. City Manager, if you read this by title only, please.
Ordinance 1175, an ordinance providing for the adoption pursuant to Chapter 163, Florida statutes of a land use change from traditional neighborhood development to commercial for an approximate 9.993 acres plus or minus acres of the property located on the west side of CR 2321 north of Deer Point Elementary School in the city of Lynn Haven, Bay County, Florida, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing effective date.
Thank you. Any questions for our Director of Development and Planning?
I would just like for, well, I can reiterate that I asked a question at the pre-meeting, if there were any residential houses close by. Because I thought that was pretty important because you're changing the classification, and there are not any residential. Is that correct? On either side?
If you have a look at the aerial map that was provided to you in your packet, you will see that there are some residences directly on the bayou. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 narrow lots that are on the water. There are also some parcels at the end of whatever that little street is on the opposite side of the road. You can see on the right-hand side. The other closest ones are kind of across from Deer Point Elementary, but again on the water. So there are not any immediately adjacent to that property.
Not any on 2321?
No, not adjacent, not immediately adjacent to the property.
Okay. And the ones that are closest to that bayou is minimal piece of property.
What do you mean? I'm not understanding you.
Well, I'm looking at the picture and it's kind of a pointed.
They're like parallel to each other, actually on the water at the end of Little Dirt Road in the county.
All right, and you said there were how many houses there?
I'm looking at the lots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It looks like there are 7 lots.
But no one's built on them yet?
It looks like there's houses on there.
Well,
but it's in the county.
But there are not any, according to this map, on 2321.
What we have to look at is we have to look at the land uses of the adjacent properties. When you're looking at a future land use map amendment change that is state controlled, you vote on it. If it's a small scale, then you vote on it. You have the 2 readings of the ordinance. The next reading will be a public hearing. And you make your decision, and then we send the ordinance to the state. If it's not challenged, it becomes effective on the 31st day. However, what we have to look at is whether the request is consistent with adjacent properties, which is why I provide you all with the land uses of the properties that are adjacent. So if you have a look on your commission agenda report, you will see that on the north, there's County Road 2321 and Bay County residential land use. You're looking at what land use districts are adjacent. On the south, there's traditional neighborhood development, which is what this currently is. Traditional neighborhood development allows for single-family homes, multifamily homes, commercial, and to the east is County Road 2321. And then to the west is Bay County Agricultural and Bay County Agricultural Timberland. Now, when you first look at this, you could say, well, this is a commercial that's land use that's been asked for. There are no commercial land uses immediately adjacent to this property. However, traditional neighborhood development, which is what it currently is, allows for commercial, which is what they're asking for. So they have a reason for wanting to split this off, the bigger parcel, and actually asking for specifically a commercial land use. But if they did not ask for that, commercial is an existing land use as is, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Amanda? Thank you.
Just a clarification. They could do it commercial because it's T&D.
Yes, sir.
But they want to isolate this particular parcel and dedicate it to just commercial.
Yes, sir. They've already split it off. It has a new parcel number, but it still has a T&D land use.
Right. But it's a formality that it's a separate parcel now and it needs a use.
They could keep it as they couldn't keep it as T&D because they've reduced the size of it. To be a T&D, you have to be a certain number of acres, and by splitting this off, it's too small to be a T&D in its own right.
That puts the light over my head. Yeah. Yep. Thank you.
First reading and transmittal approval of ordinance 1176, large-scale comprehensive plan text amendment. If you would read this, and then I have a couple of questions.
Sure. Ordinance number 1176, ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending the city's comprehensive plan to implement the evaluation and appraisal report required by Section 163-3191 Florida statutes, amending elements to meet the requirements of the Section 163-3177 Florida statutes, basing the amendments upon permanent and seasonal population estimates and projections published by the Office of Economic and Demographic Research for a 10-year and 20-year planning period, amending one future use element, Goal 1, Objective 2, Policy 2104, adding group homes, amending Objective 10, Natural Resources Protection, Policy 10.3, Development and Maintaining the Stormwater Master Plan, amending Chapter 3, Housing element to update the level of service standards in Goal 1, Policy 1-1 and Goal 2, Objectives 1 through 6, continue provisions of facilities to meet existing and projected demands, amending Chapter 5, Coastal Management, Element Goal, Objective 3, Policy 3-6 to include the requirement of Deer Point Protection Zone, and adding Goal 3, Objectives 1 through 7, preparing, adapting, mitigating, and managing climate change impacts in compliance with Section 380-093 Florida statutes related to the sea level rise, amending Chapter 7, Recreation Open Space, Element Goal 1, objective to update population projections and facility provisions, amending Chapter 7, Capital Improvement Elements, Goal 1, Objective 1, Policy 1 through 2, to update the infrastructure level of service standards and updating Objective 8, level figure 9 through 1, schedule of capital improvements for 5 and 10-year planning period, projected revenue sources to ensure the availability of the public facilities needed to maintain level of service and standards, provide for severability of provisions, repealing all ordinances that here in conflict herewith, and provide an effective date.
Thank you for reading that for us. Remember in Friday's pre-commission meeting, you stated that we would need to actually have a vote on this today.
To transmit, not on
Transmit.
not on the content of it at all, because that is going to be reviewed by the state, and they will probably have some things they want us to add or change.
Right, I'm not asking about the content.
To transmit it, to send it to the state.
Right. So I'm asking really more a procedural question is what because typically when we have a first reading, we don't do any votes and then it goes to the second reading. So my question is, we vote today, then what do we do with our next meeting for the second reading? Do we vote again?
Vote to transmit.
You're going to vote to transmit today, is specifically what your action is today. You're doing a first reading of the ordinance. When it comes back to you, the content may be slightly changed based on the comments from the state, but at that second reading and public hearing, you'll have an opportunity to approve the content. That vote will be to approve the content. And again, send it back to the state for approval.
Got it. So you're going to transmit it. We wait a few weeks. And so then it'll come back for the second reading in a few months or a couple of weeks, few months or whatever. Then we have the second reading.
Yes, sir. If everything is fine, then as soon as we get that back, we can go ahead and put it on the agenda. If we have things to change, we have up to 6 months to change them.
Okay, sounds great.
All right. So the second reading's not until we get feedback from the state?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to figure out for the procedure to make sure not that we're doing anything wrong, but in my mind, I'll know what to expect for the next time. Okay, are there any questions for Ms. Amanda? I know we had a good discussion on this Friday. Thank you for the great explanation of the changes that we're making. And so is there any additional questions for her? All right, is there a motion for this?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the transmittal of the ordinance.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Commissioner Perno, second by Commissioner Ward. Is there any discussion from the public? Yes, sir. I was wondering what took you so long to come back up here.
What?
I was wondering what took you so long to come back up here.
I don't scare easy. Goes back many years with the planning group doing small scale and large scale. This will be your first small scale for the year 2025. You have a number that you can get to. And the large scale has the same thing too. However, you've correctly identified the fact this has to go to the state. Most of the people are under the impression that the offices that this go to are just the state. No, it's 5 general offices that it goes to. One of them was the DCA. DCA was in charge of reviewing something like this and see how it would impact the overall picture. That's why you have a first reading, then goes to the state. The state comes back and tells you if it's right, wrong, or how to correct it. And then you do that, and you go back to the state again. You don't know what the state's going to say. You're under the impression that the DCA office has been closed. No, it's not. It goes to these 3-letter organizations that take a look at what you're proposing or what they are proposing. And they're going to send back corrections or no. They're going to approve or no. That's why you have 2 weeks, 3 weeks in advance. You don't know what the state's going to say. So, rightfully so, in your second reading, if the state says okay, then you vote on it. Doesn't say okay, you have the corrections, you're going to make the corrections, then you have to submit it to the state again. So, what you're coming up with is you have to wait. This is what you have to do, and this is what we've been doing for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public commentary? City Manager, if you call the vote.
Commissioner Perno?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Commissioner Vandegrift?
Yes.
Commissioner Peebles?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes, motion passed. Today, just for discussion, items 17 and 18. Item 17, discussion pertaining to defining what constitutes an accessory structure per section 5.01.02, accessory structure in all land use districts. Open for discussion.
I got a few things on it. So I was looking at what other municipalities do around, because I don't want to claim to be an expert on accessory structures by any means. But one thing that I've kind of come across is it's really important that if it's going to be a permanent accessory structure, that especially here in Florida, it needs to be anchored down. Even if it's heavy, we need to have it anchored down because as we know with hurricanes, structures can fly away pretty easily. Another thing that we need to look at is how far do we want it to be required to be away from the setback. Most people say around 3 to 5 feet, so that's probably important, but we want the setback to be. Another thing to look at is, do we want to make it to where, I believe, is the requirement right now that it has to be in the backyard? Okay, so that's already covered. And then another thing we want to look at is if it's going to be permanent, what the maximum height is. Some people say it should be no higher than your house. Others say it should be no higher than like 12 feet. So it depends on where we want to go there. Another thing is how big can it be? Some say it's better to do by percentage of the square footage of your home. Other municipalities have a straightforward like 200 square feet. Something like that. So really that's, I think, if we can kind of decide together what those areas there are really what we need to look at if we're going to allow an accessory structure to be permanent.
Got it. Any other discussion?
Probably the number one complaint I hear from citizens is the fact that someone has something in their front yard or in the driveway, and they'll tell me, well, you know, I'm following the rules, and this individual is not. And so I just want you to be aware that that's probably the number one complaint that I get.
Any further discussion? Are there any questions for staff about this?
My question is, what do we do from here? Where do we go? I mean, what do we write down to make more specific or change? Do we copy what another city's done, or?
So going from here, we wanted your feedback. And even if you wanted to have this change clarified, I mean, that's the most important thing, is it needs clarity to it, so that we can enforce whatever's there. And as you know, a lot of our policies are sometimes ambiguous. There's a gray area, and we just need to identify those things. And then from there, we can rewrite policy or keep it the same.
Now, is it possible that
What we have is okay, not okay?
and I guess, yeah, that's a great question from Commissioner Perno. So what are and you mentioned this on Friday, so what are the concerns or the gray areas that you're having to address that you would like clarity on?
Mostly, I think the mobile attic type containers that people do often put in the front yard, even though we actually allow side and rear yard. And the other thing are these huge shipping containers. I wanted to, Commissioner Peebles, we actually do have a height limit on them. It's 25 feet. Just wanted to let you know that we do have that. I noticed that one of the other cities have a list of things that are not allowed. So I don't know whether, if you're generally happy with what we have, we could keep it as is, but then put a list of prohibited structures, maybe, just a thought.
Maybe we could also put something that if it's a storage container in the front yard, like we talked about on Friday, I like that idea, about how if it's a storage container in the front yard, we don't want to like cite them the day that it's discovered. We want to give them an opportunity. So if we could maybe have it in writing that, I don't know, 30 days after the first notice that it needs to be either removed or put to the side yard, whatever we decide. But I think I don't know, maybe that's something for the attorney. Okay.
Y'all have lots of options, so it's really just enunciating for us what you care most about and what you don't care about.
Right. And I guess we're also, because staff brought it to us to say these are issues they're having, to make sure that we're clarifying what's there. Commissioner Perno?
What I'm hearing is it's shipping containers, it's the pods, so to speak, and I think it's our next thing is the mobile homes or stuff in the driveway that we're going to talk about next. But I don't know if it's all the same, but I think we can address the shipping containers and the pods. I think is what we need to add the language for mostly, and I think the city attorney has the verbiage from other cities that have either said you could do it for so long or prohibit or whatever. So.
If you do want to, if you want to address shipping containers specifically, again, you have the options. You can prohibit them expressly all the time. You can allow them in front yards for a limited duration, maybe up to a certain size. Really, it's up to you to say what you find offensive, whether it's the appearance that's offensive or the placement in a property that's offensive or the size of the container or a combination of those things.
You're giving us too many options.
I know, but again, I'm just trying to guide the conversation in terms of you'll tell me what you care the most about. We can then craft a regulation that addresses that primary concern.
I think what we care the most about is providing clarity for what their concerns might be that they're getting from.
Right now, they're allowed unless they're forbidden or restricted in some way. So if y'all would like to have some restrictions, please let us know so that we can craft those.
All right, so let's discuss that for a moment in regards to the shipping containers being in the front or, just in general.
We don't allow accessory structures in the front yard, period. Only in the side or rear.
I was thinking of the mobile attic, I'm sorry, the little mobile pod thing.
Side yards and driveways, right?
Sorry?
You allow them in driveways?
No, those mobile pods are, if you class them as accessory structures, are not allowed in the front either. If you want to allow them in the front for a period of time, that's something that you can discuss. Currently, no accessory structures. But then the question is a pod an accessory structure? I don't know.
That's where I always see the mobile pods is in everybody's front yard. So I just thought that's what they're supposed to be until they move.
Could we make it as simple as a pod or a storage container is an accessory structure with the exception that it's allowed in the front yard for a certain amount of time? That way we would cover both bases. We say, yes, it's an accessory structure, but if it's a storage container, that specific accessory structure has limitations to a time.
I think then I would say, in some sense, try to poll the citizens to see if we want storage containers in our city as accessory structures.
That could be one of our questions on the ballot.
So that will be, one of the questions is that we would have to consider is that what do we want storage containers, in our backyards. We hadn't heard anything from this side of the panel. This is
the way I look at it is there's people who use storage pods for temporary use. And usually it's probably, I would imagine, moving, or maybe they got construction going on. I don't want to hinder that. So I'm for, you're allowed to use it for whatever time that we agree, 2 weeks, 30 days, whatever. And it could be similar to when we did with the RVs, right? After the hurricane, we were very flexible as far as how long you stayed living in an RV while you got your house repaired. So we could probably do the same thing with this, where if you do need it longer than this, then you need to send a letter to the city, and then it needs to be approved by the commission as far as what is your plan, so it's not there forever, you know. That's kind of where I'm leaning towards.
Okay.
What do you guys think?
So with the mobile pods, and just not shipping containers, just talking about mobile pods right now. So with the mobile pods, Commissioner Work, you're thinking temporary use only with continued extensions upon requesting from commission. Okay. Ms. Vandergriff?
Well, the problem right now is a lot of those temporaries have been there for months and months and months.
And I guess if we, because right now we're just discussing to give the city attorney some idea on what language to craft. But to your point, we could say, hey, once this is passed, that starts day one, right? That will start day one of, certainly there might have been some out there for 2 years, right? But if it passes with this new language of temporary usage, then that could be day, effective date. And then from there, make the citizens aware through our newsletter and such, Facebook posts and all of that. And then from there, we start day one of how long have you had it and whatever time frames we come up with, following from there. So that might remedy that to show some grace where we're not necessarily being retroactive, but moving forward.
But that's kind of, I think, what solves what you're talking about is if we give them an option to extend it if they need it extended, so we know that, hey, they do have a plan in place. It's not going to be there forever. That's why I thought that was kind of important, because you're right. There is a lot out there, and you don't want to go out there and say, all right, everybody move them out, at the same time. So to me, I just want to be able to see that they actually have a plan to actually remove them.
And temporary use for mobile pod. All right, Commissioner Perno, temporary use for mobile pod. And if you could clarify again, location of mobile pod, where are those supposed to be located?
Currently, we only allow accessory structures in the side and rear. So if you want to allow them in the front, then that's something that will have to be put in there too.
This discussion is just for the front, right?
But this is just for the mobile pod, right? So what we're saying is that we see them in the driveways and front yards, but they're not supposed to be there per the ordinance. As an accessory structure, it's supposed to be on the side or back.
Right.
So we can change it to make it allowable in the front for that extended period of time, or we can leave it as is and say it needs to be on the side or the back, and then allow time period for the temporary usage.
We could allow them in the back. It's just the front that would be temporary is what we're getting at, right?
It
The mobile
depends.
pods.
If you want to keep them in the side and backyards as is,
Right.
that gives direction to staff as to what they should be enforcing. Nothing in a driveway, nothing in the front yard. But if
Right.
you're okay with them in the front yard for 30 days, 2 weeks,
Yeah.
whatever, that's important for staff to know from an enforcement perspective and for me for a drafting perspective.
Yeah, because that's kind of the way I was looking at it for the temporary, was just for the front.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. That's how I was looking at it. So.
And what has been the, Commissioner Ward made reference to the RV policy. When I came in, we were just extending them. So there was, I wasn't on the initial, how long was that supposed to be used? City Manager, could you?
I think that
Yes.
was I'm sorry, I think it was 6 months.
Sometimes it could be longer. If they knew that they were rebuilding an entire house, they would ask that request in their letter. So they would say, 8 months. And then you would approve at 8 months. They would come back in 8 months and say, yes, hey, we're finished, or we need an extension. So it was really the letter that they wrote in terms of what that length was.
Okay.
And we also, we're seeing mobile pods, but then people get very meticulous and say storage containers. So we don't want to we don't want to limit.
Well, yeah, we're using that phrase to delineate in our discussion between the shipping container, because I think we had a little confusion on that. So yeah, mobile pod, because the companies call them different things. So I guess whatever language we could use that could cover all of those is what we would be want to make sure it's inclusive language to cover all of those. So for clarity, what we're doing is we are discussing storage containers or the moving containers for having only temporary use if they're placed in the front yard. Is that what we're clarifying?
Yes.
All right, so we're okay with the current language of what's in the policy for side and rear. We're okay with that. Now, if I'm also understanding, are you also asking us if these should be considered as accessory structures? Is that something else you're needing clarity on as well?
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Okay, if that's the case, I would like to add that if it's going to be permanent, they need to let us know and that it needs to be anchored down.
Right, but it's for us to, I think right now we have to decide if right now it's not an accessory structure.
Correct, yeah.
So we have to discuss, and we don't have to decide today, but part of our thought process needs to be, and what we have to direct for the language is, do we want to include these as accessory structures? Right. So we're doing a second part now. First part, they can keep them in the front. We're saying that we're going to consider allowing them to keep them in the front yards for a certain period of time with extensions. But also, if code enforcement drives by right now, they're not part of the ordinance to say that they're an approved accessory structure to even have, whether it's on the side or the rear. Our ordinance doesn't allow those to be on the premises as an accessory structure. So we have to consider, would that be an accessory structure? Now, I think we also, since our city attorney told us we have a lot of options, I think one of the things that if we're looking at considering those as accessory structures, are there certain aesthetics that those accessory structures should have? For example, every, let's say, storage unit that you get from Home Depot has some type of aesthetic to it, where it's not just vanilla square, right? It has some type of roof line and those type of things that go along with it. Or if you buy one of the storage units from around town. So is that something that we would want to consider as well with that? Does it need to have some type of aesthetic if we're saying that you can keep this as an accessory structure? Trying to keep in mind that we're, representing the entire city. So, because right now when they do put the storage units in their backyard, they have the roof shapes and things like that. Roof pitch to it. So, so those are things to consider. If we're going to say, yes, it can be an accessory structure, I would ask that we consider the aesthetics of that accessory structure.
Do we have many issues with larger shipping container type things?
This is a new thing, really, with people wanting to use shipping containers as all sorts of storage, and it's common in the county. But now, people are beginning to ask if they can have them in the city, and they're getting mad when we say no, which is why we really need some direction.
But right now, we're not on the shipping containers yet. We're still on the little mobile pods. Because some people are keeping the mobile pods as accessory structures, like as a small 8x10 storage unit is what some people are doing. But no, well, part one is we're saying yes for the front yard, but according to staff, it is still not approved as an accessory structure. So we have to decide, do we want the mobile pods to be an accessory structure that's approved, that can be on the side and in the back? And if so, I would say, if we say yes, they're an accessory structure that we want to include, then I would just ask that we think about the aesthetics, having some type of aesthetic requirement for that as well.
Like it should be more like a shed then.
Yeah. That if you're going to keep it, make it look nice for your neighbor.
I agree with that.
Okay.
But again, are we dealing with many instances of that right now?
I don't know about the mobile pods. They're mostly out front, I think, the issue.
So we're putting to bed the out front thing on the.
Right.
So we need verbiage that's going to identify the accessory, that's accessory structure on the side.
And the rear.
So it can't be a mobile pod, basically. So it's got to have that another look to it.
And I guess if that's not an issue, then we don't have to worry about it today. So we'll just focus on the front.
To be honest, I don't know if they're an issue because I'm not in the building department, and it's the building department that they would go to for the permits.
Got it. Okay. Let's move on to shipping containers. So we got the first part for temporary use. All right. And if it comes back up, accessory structures with mobile pods, we'll work on that later. Shipping containers. What sizes are people asking about? Because I know they come in different sizes.
Well, the big ones that they get off the back of a ship, I don't know what size they are.
Correct.
Bigger than what a truck can haul.
They're big.
The huge ones.
No, I know what I'm saying. Is that the ones that people are asking about?
Sir.
Yes.
All right. What are your thoughts on shipping containers? Because right now they're not allowed in the city.
And some people might not be able to have them because of your accessory structure can be no bigger than 50% of the size of your house. So if they have a little house, it might, or if they don't have a big yard, because we also have a rear yard coverage thing, but we don't have anything that actually limits. Number one, again, are they an accessory structure? And if they are, number two, do you want to put a limit on the size? Do you want them? Do you want language in there that doesn't allow them? What do you want?
Are you aware of any other cities that allow? I know
the county does.
Right. The county, they allow a lot.
Yeah.
But any other municipalities that allow these shipping containers?
I don't know. Do you know, Amy?
I think Callaway expressly prohibits them. And I know that Panama City Beach prohibits metal buildings that are visible from a right-of-way. So I think they have impliedly prohibited them that way. I can't speak beyond that as to what the other municipalities expressly do.
I would say that would be one thing for us to look at how have other cities, how have they responded to this as well. Any other discussion on it?
I guess my thought is if it's meets the 50% in the 25-foot height, then it's good. And if it doesn't, then it's not good. I mean, to me, that seems pretty straightforward.
Do you want them in the city?
Yeah, it's their property, it's their prerogative.
You could say that about a lot of things. You could say that about the height of grass. You could say that about all sorts of things that other people find a nuisance.
And it's my opinion that it's their property and it's their prerogative.
But you can, people can use them as tiny houses or Airbnbs or
swimming pools.
Believe me, they will, if you allow them, they will use them as their man cave and everything else.
That's where I'm thinking that we need, we already have rules in place about an accessory structure can't be so big compared to the house. But then we're going to deal with this large shipping container that can be used for so many different things, a tiny house or whatever. And then are we going to allow that? Or are we going to put aesthetic, rules on that as well? That it has to look a certain way or match the house or whatever. I don't know. I'm just saying that I'm leaning more toward it should be prohibitive more than allowing it, or.
I don't think any of us are sure right now.
I'd rather.
I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either, but I'd rather be prohibitive to a fault on this than to take it and see.
Do you have?
Also, can I just say something? Just a thought. There's a reason that people want to live in Lynn Haven. If you want to look to see what other cities are doing about everything, that's something that you can do. But people don't want to live in the other cities. A lot of them, they specifically want to live in Lynn Haven for a reason.
They're clean.
Do you have an idea approximately of how many requests you've received for
Not
this?
many, like two over the last 6 months.
If only two people have
But
asked.
we need to know how to respond to those people.
I'm of the mindset to be more prohibitive than accepting to it at this time until we could get a grip around the aesthetics, the size, the intentions of hey, it'd probably make a great addition to a house, but what would it look like? You know what I mean?
If I pay $300,000
Yeah.
for a house to live in Lynn Haven,
And somebody puts
and
one
my
in.
neighbor brings a shipping container into the backyard that has no fence, I'd be concerned for my grandchildren and varmints and all sorts of things. I would not want to go out for a barbecue and look over there and see a shipping container. Now, like you said, if they want to live in the county, that's the county's business. But if we want to keep Lynn Haven pristine and where people want to come to live, I think we need to think very seriously about that.
So let me ask you this, if they had a fence that was tall enough that you couldn't see it, would you be all right with it? And I know I'm playing devil's advocate here. Would you be all right with it then? Because it's kind of out of sight, out of mind type thing. And it's, I'm on the fence, literally.
So at this moment, let's agree to allow the attorney to give us prohibitive language. Not that that's final, because we still got to discuss it and vote on it, but so we can have something to read. If you would give us the temporary use language and prohibitive language for the shipping containers as accessory structures, to give us something to read, and then we can continue this discussion once we get that back. Would you be able to bring this back to us next commission meeting? Okay, and it will come back as an ordinance, so we'll have two readings, so we'll have two more rounds, not maybe necessarily of this, but two more rounds to look at it with that language. So, all right, agenda item number 18, discussion only pertains to specific parking requirements for recreational vehicles per section 0.05.15 of the ULDC. City manager.
Again, this is just an area for clarification for us, whether or not you're going to allow RVs to sit in their driveway, or what we're going to do, because most of them do sit in the driveway, and right now our code says they must be in the back, or if we want to move them to the side. We just need clarification, because we said on Friday there are over 300 RVs here in the city right now, and if we tell one no, then we have to tell them all no. We tell them one yes, and then vice versa. So we just need for us to really be on the same page with the RVs.
I did reach out to the city planner for the city of Panama City. They have not adopted their ordinance yet. It's still being considered by the planning board, but he agreed to send it to me as soon as he could. So I don't have it yet, but I hope as soon as I do get it, I'm happy to share it.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Perno.
Chief Ramey, you said that, is there 300? 300?
Yes, sir.
We're looking at 300 recreational vehicles in driveways, correct? Or is it not, does that
Some of
include
them are in
parked
the
on the
back.
side?
Yeah, some of them have
Yeah,
parked
'cause
in
some
the
of
back.
them have little pole barn type things on the side, and they pull them in.
Yep.
But 300, and I know if you go down certain streets that someone's got like a monstrosity of a motorhome and they're backed in, and neighbors can't see the next house, you know. So, and I know it's someone's driveway, they have the right, but we might need to look at some verbiage to, I guess, see where we can establish their vehicles, whether it be on.
When I originally looked at this, I thought this was an easy answer, but
it's not
more complicated. And once you start diving into it, like for instance, to me, I don't care if you park your RV in your parking in your driveway or not, but the problem is if it looks dilapidated, like the one from National Lampoon's Vacation or something like that, you know?
Yeah, if they park in their driveway, it's going to be there for 5 years.
Yeah, and so, you know, where do you draw the lines? If you do allow it, then you got people with boats and everything too. You gotta make stuff for that too, and so it becomes subjective as far as what's presentable and what's not presentable, and that just makes it more difficult for code enforcement. I don't know. I'm almost leaning towards, because I know there's code far as regular vehicles, you know, it has to be registered. I don't, It can't be on blocks. It can't be like you're painting it and everything. If you're going to do that, then you got to put it in a garage and that. Do we use those type of codes to enforce that? I don't know.
So if you look at the ordinance as it is right now, it says basically permanent placement is for RVs and park trailers are not permitted. But right above that section, it's section 14-263. It's pretty, I think it's well written when it talks about if it's a temporary placement in a flood hazard area. And it does talk about exactly what you just said, like if it's fully licensed for highway use, and it doesn't have anything in it, and it's on wheels, and it's attached in a quick disconnect to where you're going to use it, and it's not there as like a permanent living. I think we do have a model here that we can build off of. I think we're kind of thinking the same thing, that like the city just wants clarification, but I don't think we want to leave it to where it's straight across the board. You can't have an RV in Lynn Haven. Especially like I personally know people that use their RV regularly. You know, we don't want to say, hey, if you're an RV user, you're not welcome here in Lynn Haven. We don't want to get to that point, but I definitely understand that we do want to have regulations, like you said.
It's going to make it difficult on code enforcement. I think if we go that direction, we got to be very specific on what's allowable, what's not allowable.
Yeah, definitely want to talk to code enforcement about that.
Well, if it's helpful, what I hear you saying is that, Lynn Haven is growing. And so I think you are at a point where you have to decide how traditional you want to keep your neighborhoods and preserve how clean they have been. And while the use of an RV, the use of a storage shed, the use of a boat, all of these are incidental to residential home ownership. Where are you going to draw the line? I mean, is it most important that you do have the ability to store all of those things in your yard? And so do you need to change the maximum size of your driveway requirements and then therefore prohibit anything on the grass? That's one way to handle it. Or is it to say the size of driveways are appropriate in this city? We want to keep that the same. We also want to keep people from parking all of their accessories in the yard to keep those yards clean. Preserving your traditional neighborhoods is a legitimate public interest. And that does mean that you have to draw a line and prohibit some things. Where you find that balance is unique to your city. Prohibiting it all is one way to handle it. That feels very punitive, but acknowledging that there are a lot of incidental uses, and the consequences is that your yard will ultimately be cluttered if they are all allowed. So you can't say yes to everything. And that is a hard decision to make, but that's really the decision. What accessories are appropriate on the property to preserve the neighborhood feel that makes Lynn Haven so attractive?
All right, thank you. Great discussion. I think we'll have more to discuss once we get the email from city attorney with the language that Panama City is using for their RV situation. So hopefully we'll be able to have some resolution on this within the next few meetings.